Welcome to another episode of our Las Vegas podcast. The name is still unknown because we're still figuring it out. So if you have a name that we could use, we were thinking about the Rainmaker, but there's no rain in Las Vegas most of the time. So that's why, if you have a name, please make sure to leave a comment and there's a reward for that. But today we've got a great, productive, busy bee, hence the color. Beejel. He's been advising entrepreneurs since 2009 on topics such as effective planning, increasing their effectiveness, productivity, because of the bee theme, and outsourcing to virtual assistants. He coached, consulted, trained thousands of entrepreneurs all over the world. Beejel believes entrepreneurs can learn a lot about business management and high performance from bees. Again, that's why he's so yellow here. And his chosen spirit animal is exactly the bee.
It's really funny you mentioned that.
Beejel, welcome to the podcast.
First, thank you so much. Growing up, I used to watch a lot of martial art films, right? And there used to be like dragons and tigers, and then I got lions and wolves. So I always thought that one of those creatures would be my spirit animal, right?
Right.
So when I chose the bee right after my 50th birthday, it was for all the different reasons.
Beejel, tell us your story, where you're from and what you do, because you weren't born in the US.
No, I was actually born in the UK. I came to the US in '97. It was my dream to always come to the US. I grew up watching a lot of American series and stuff, and so I remember I used to watch Baywatch. You remember Baywatch?
Yeah, of course.
So I had this dream of like coming to the US and that beach scene, running down the beach scene. But when I arrived in the US, I actually arrived in Chicago, and it was the middle of almost about the start of winter, like end of November. It was so cold, and it's like one of the worst winters I've ever experienced. But that was my starting point in
worse
America.
than in London,
yeah,
because you were around there.
Exactly, yeah, from the UK.
Right, and so you arrived to Las Vegas how many years ago?
Okay, so here's what happened. So we lived in Chicago for 3 years. We went to San Diego for 10 years. We loved San Diego.
Wow.
My oldest daughter, she was born in Chicago, and when she was about to be born, I was traveling a lot. I was traveling internationally to Japan, Korea, India, and I said, I don't want to be traveling. My daughter's coming.
What did you do for?
I was a sales engineer. So
okay.
Basically, I was selling high technology to automotive companies back then.
Okay.
I loved my job, but at the back of my mind was all this buzz of entrepreneurship, like starting something on my own. But I didn't leave my corporate job because I was unhappy. I enjoyed my corporate job. I enjoyed the social aspect of the corporate job. I really left because I wanted to have a little bit more control of my time and spend more time with my daughter. So we actually moved from San Diego to Chicago.
Right.
Sorry, from Chicago to San Diego, and it was like one of my dream places to live. It was you're not too far from the beach. It was sunny. It was great.
Closer to Baywatch already.
Absolutely. And we were living the immigrant dream. We had just bought a new house in San Diego. Everything was going well. But around 2000, 2001 or 2, I found out my partner at the time had made some decisions which were a little bit unethical. We'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go too deep.
Your
into
business
that.
partner?
Business partner at the time.
Okay.
Right? And basically we found ourselves broke. All the properties we lost. The home we had in San Diego, I had to give up. So we found ourselves kind of almost close to broke, right? And this is like back in 2003. And then no matter what we did for like the next several years, we had our ups and downs in San Diego, the challenges. And in 2009, and so in that time period, I had to leave the country a few times, I had to come back. So we're trying to stay compliant to the immigration laws. Not trying, we were staying compliant, but that meant sometimes we had to leave. The whole family had to be moved back to the UK. Then we had a new visa come back, so we had moved.
So the immigration process for the family was kind of
challenging
in the process, right?
Yeah,
so you were
exactly. Yeah. Anyway, cut long story short, 2009. Here I was, an entrepreneur, struggling. Like I'd gone to all the seminars and everything else, and read all the books and motivation and stuff, but nothing I'd done was working out. So I had this what I call the dark night of the soul, which is I had a life insurance policy, and I had this moment where I was thinking, is this life insurance policy the only way I'm going to achieve the success financially that everybody talks about? And obviously nothing came of it, but I had that moment of like just such a low point in life. But obviously I chose not to take that path, and I said, okay, there has to be something. Right after that moment, this was February 2009, right after that moment, a friend of mine invited me to a personal development event. I'd been to several before. I was like, I don't really want to go. I was like not in the mind state to go. But in that event, they were going to do a fire walk. And I'd never done a fire walk.
Was it Tony Robbins?
It wasn't Tony Robbins.
Okay.
But it was kind of like a kindergarten version of Tony Robbins. It wasn't, I mean, like in terms of the number of people. It wasn't
right.
like So I thought, let me go and at least do a fire walk. I went to that event and I met one of the speakers on the stage was a guy by the name of Marshall Silver. Some of your listeners may know.
He's pretty known here in
Vegas. Yeah. And I was watching this guy on stage, and I said, I'd love to be a speaker. Now, the first thought of becoming a speaker happened right out of college in 1992. I graduated with aerospace engineering in London.
Okay, and, so you're a clever guy.
Some will argue about that. I went right after college. I went to a network marketing event. Okay. And that's something like
Herbalife.
It wasn't Herbalife. It was a company that was doing air filters and water filters and nutrition and stuff like that.
Right.
And I wasn't. That was cool. But what really fascinated me was this guy on the stage, and they had this inspirational speaker. I think it was Robert Swan was his name. It was the first event I'd ever gone to. I'd never seen anything like that. In terms of all these people and motivation and like people just so happy. At least they looked happy, right?
Right.
And I saw this person on stage, and I said, "Wow, I want to be a speaker." Right?
Okay.
Right. So that thought never left my mind. Like all these years, even though I never did anything with that, it's just a seed got planted right there. Anyway, life continues. I worked at an engineering company. Came to America, but here I was in 2009, and I said, okay, I have to reinvent myself. I've got to do something different. So I thought about, well, what do all these entrepreneurs need? What's the biggest challenge they're having right now?
Right.
So after a little bit of kind of talking to people, I said, you know what? Everyone's so busy. They're stretched, they're overwhelmed, they're busy, and that kind of got me thinking about outsourcing. So I had 3 girls in the Philippines, and I started with that. And I was just getting started, and I went to my first big event with my new business cards, a new website, and I knew there was going to be like 50 to 100 people in the event, and I was like, I'm going to get everyone.
Entrepreneurs?
Yeah, entrepreneurs.
So you were targeting then?
And I was going to get all their business cards, and I'm going to start my business with a big bang, And the very first speaker on stage was this gentleman who owned a company that had 100 virtual assistants.
100 virtual assistants.
Yeah, and he'd been successful. Like he'd been successful in the music industry. He'd been successful in the clothing industry. Just whatever he'd done, he'd been successful.
Okay.
So first of all, I was really like annoyed. Like, oh my God, I'm here to get all these entrepreneurs' business cards and get all these clients. And the first person who's speaking on stage is someone in my industry, right?
Right.
And so I was like, this is the point. I was like sitting there, my arms folded. I was like, oh Jesus, like what? But yeah, I listened to what he was saying. I was like, well, obviously this guy knows something about running a successful business, so maybe he might help me out. So I went up on the break. I went up to him. I said, hey, would you give me a few tips on how to build this business? He goes, sure. He goes, here's my number. Give me a call and let's chat.
Okay.
Now, at the time, I was living in San Diego. He was living in Los Angeles, and we actually met here in Vegas, ironically. Right. And I called him up on Monday. I didn't think, sometimes these speakers, they say these things, they never follow up.
They never follow up.
But he actually called me back.
Okay. And
eventually we met for coffee. I shared my vision. He showed me his vision. We both wanted to be speakers. And he said, instead of doing your own business, why don't you become an affiliate for me? So I started off as an affiliate for him.
Okay.
Then I became a master affiliate, which basically means I made a little bit more commission. And eventually I started working with him, and I worked with him for over 10 years.
Wow.
And we grew the company from 100 virtual assistants to 500 virtual assistants.
Wow.
But so I started working with him in September of 2009.
10 years.
Yeah. And then in 2010, my lawyer who was handling my immigration said, I'm really sorry, but you have to either leave the country or become illegal in the US. I said, well, I'm not going to become illegal. So in 2010, in June of 2010, we made the decision to leave the US. On July 4th, 2010, Independence Day, we started selling all of our things. In about 30 days, we sold, gave away, donated 90% of all our belongings.
Wow.
We packed 4 red bags, 3 laptops, 2 kids, 1 wife, and we left.
Where did you go?
And we went to India.
Okay.
Now, I'm of Indian
You
descent.
could go to the UK, right?
I could have gone to the UK, but I wanted to do something different. We wanted to just explore the world a little bit. So we went to India. We didn't really know anybody. My dad had one friend that I knew that I contacted him and said, hey, we're coming to India. We stayed with him for a week or so, but then we just kind of started traveling throughout India. Eventually, after a couple of weeks of traveling, we ended up making Bangalore, which is the more in the southern part of India, known for its technology, our home. We honestly thought we were going to be there for a few months. Ended up being 5 years.
Wow.
So even though our base was in India, we were traveling all over Asia, and I was flying back to the US every 3-4 months.
Okay.
But not only that, we're not just living there. I was still working with clients in the US, UK, Australia. Our virtual assistants were in the Philippines, and here I was in India. So the one thing I had to figure out how to do really well was how to delegate to other people, because I wanted to make most of our time in India, because there's so much to see and do.
Right.
So I became really good at delegating things out to people into our own team, and so that's how I got into outsourcing.
Do you think, let me ask you a question. Do you think entrepreneurs and people in general have troubles delegating? They don't know how to delegate. They don't even know a lot of times that you could actually leverage like that.
I would say 90% of people I talk to, I think I've had somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 one-on-one conversations with entrepreneurs, and I would say 90% don't even know what to delegate. They know they're busy, but they're not sure what to delegate,
right?
How to delegate, and even what to delegate first.
Right. So let's discuss your process for a little bit, because that's where your expertise lies, as the B character,
Yeah.
the Beejel. And then how come your name is coincidental with?
So right after.
Did you change your name?
No. So my name is actually Beejel.
We can go a little bit slower.
My name is Beejel, and right after my 50th birthday, I had no interest in bees. In fact, I think I was kind of grew up scared of bees. I remember one time as a little kid, I was in a park in the UK,
right?
And I think I even got chased by a bee. So I had no connection to bees whatsoever.
Okay.
But right after my 50th birthday, I stumbled across a management book. So I started doing some consulting work at a management level, and I don't know how I think I was just Googling like management books, and I came across this book called Wisdom of the Bees. And really what it talked about was how this individual was using what he was learning from bees to actually consult management companies. Companies using, and he talked about how team communication and productivity and efficiency, but everything he was talking about was based on the bees. So I just became fascinated.
The model.
The model. I was like, well, if you can, use this model for helping large companies, what could entrepreneurs learn from bees as well? So the very first thing I kind of stumbled across was my saying, which is, bees have a purpose. Every bee has a function in the hive, right?
Wow.
So and what we have, we say we have a speciality, we have a skill, right? But they also serve the community, so they know how to work in a team, right? So they serve their purpose, they serve their hive, but they also serve humanity, right? The net result of what the bee does
And the world
is the food, right? So these 3 levels, they are productive. They serve their purpose, they serve their hive, and they serve humanity. So that to me was like a first big, like aha moment, right? Then I started actually looking at bees, right? So bees defy logic, they defy science, right? They shouldn't be able to do what they do, but they do. Entrepreneurs are a little bit like that, right? They defy logic.
Yeah.
We'll give up
unreasonable.
We'll give up a 40-hour per week job to create an 80-hour per week career, right?
Yeah, and then for many years you've been underpaid.
Now, I don't know if bees know it or not, but bees have, in human terms, a very short life cycle, right? We also have a limited life cycle,
right?
But in that time, are we waking up and performing our job the best way possible? We don't know when that switch is going to turn off, right?
Correct.
But we waste so much of that time. Yeah, so like bees, entrepreneurs defy logic a little bit, right? But unlike bees, entrepreneurs have free will, right? In terms of, well, they leave their corporate jobs
Yeah.
because they want freedom, right?
Right.
And they want to work in their own time, their own pace. They don't want to be managed, right? But that's also an entrepreneur's weakness, that they don't have, in most cases, someone holding them accountable to
Amen.
staying on track. Right?
Amen.
So this is more than just outsourcing your busy work, right? At a fundamental level, entrepreneurs need to stay on track. They need to stop chasing shiny, dangly objects all the time.
Oh man,
right?
so many
Right?
greetings to my business partner Michael. He's always looking for the shiny objects, but it's got also its advantages because it's always leading to something. He's always like trying to be 2 steps ahead, but sometimes it's misleading.
Yeah, that is why you need a partnership of 2 people. You need the visionary, and you need the integrator. Right? Now, at a corporate level or a higher business level, there may be two people. Right? One person who's going to look at the opportunities and look for these different things that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But a business also needs an integrator. They need someone to stay on track. Right? They need someone to say, you know what, that's a great opportunity, but not right now. Let's stay focused on this, and we'll park that idea.
And that's the integrator.
That's the integrator, right? And if people want a reference for that, they can look up the book Rocket Fuel.
Rocket Fuel. Is it the Chirac? There's a new book by Chirac, Rocket Fuel.
Rocket Fuel is based on the EOS system.
Okay.
Entrepreneur operating system, right? So talk about this relationship. Now, a lot of people listening, they may be solopreneurs as well. I don't have, a lot of entrepreneurs are very visionary, right? They may not have the budget to even have a integrator, that. But that's where we can start to use, coaches or systems to keep us on track, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a big part of that is then, well, what about all the busy work that we're doing, right? So what a lot of entrepreneurs do, they go to events, seminars, whatever, and they hear about this new opportunity. And a lot of times that opportunity involves a project, getting a project. We're going to have to go a little bit faster here.
We can go like somewhere.
Yeah, we'll just go around.
Okay. And then we can go to that quiet area, right? Okay. So maybe you'll continue there because there's lots of wind here. That's good. He's gonna just chunk that, and we're gonna have like different moments as well, which is perfect. You see, you're showing me now different. Sergio showed me some different parts. Now you're showing me different parts, and so that's great. And that's Anthem, you said?
Hmm?
Okay.
Yeah, so we just drove through 7 Hills.
7 Hills, right?
And now we're going into Anthem.
So we're going into Anthem. You guys ready for that? We left 7 Hills, which I know because we've been recording some podcasts there already, and then going to Anthem. Let's see what's going on. It would be good to have a little bit of the water on the desert. So which part do you like more, Anthem or 7 Hills?
It's really close. I mean, we lived in 7 Hills first, and now we moved to Anthem.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I need to take the time to say hi to your. Is it your eldest daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's her name?
Shivani.
Shivani. Hi to Shivani and
Bogdan.
Bogdan.
Yeah.
And Bogdan, who Shivani is in Warsaw, by the way.
Yeah.
So a lot of our listeners are Polish.
Okay.
So because you probably heard there are some episodes in Polish.
Yeah.
So what I'm planning to do, I mean, they're probably not gonna be coming to the US any soon. So I would interview them here, but we'll probably do a Zoom call and we'll just record it with Shivani and Bogdan. So, hi guys, and I'm gonna be following up. I'm the guy that follows up, not the one that doesn't. Beejel, please continue with entrepreneurs and what do they need to do in order to stay accountable? What systems do they need to implement, and your solution for that?
Cool. So, I was helping run high-end masterminds. And in 2015, I was flying back from Los Angeles back to Bangalore, India. I was in the Starbucks, and a lot of these high-end masterminds were charging $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 to be part of these masterminds. And people would come, there maybe in our case it was every 3 months, and brainstorm a lot of great ideas, how to create multi-million-dollar businesses. I was noticing that a lot of these people were not taking action. They're paying this big money, but they're not taking action.
I call it masturbating.
Exactly. So from mastermind to master. Anyway, so I said, well, why is that? Why is the entrepreneur struggle to implement, right? And there's really a lack of accountability for most of them. They didn't have a manager to hold them manager. But the other thing was that they were being bogged down in things that they didn't really want to do, right? That was the other big thing. They were, working on stuff that just didn't light them up. We become entrepreneurs because we want to spend more time doing what we love to do.
Amen.
Right? But we don't. It's kind of this illusion that people tell you, hey, you can give up your job and jobs like this and jobs like that. But no one really tells you that. When you choose to become an entrepreneur, you're now doing the accounting, you're doing the sales, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the fulfillment, you're doing all of this stuff, yourself. That's kind of like how I ended up really thinking about this outsourcing a little bit differently. I said, okay, but also, entrepreneurs have very tight budgets. And when you're starting a business, they don't have a lot of money to spend on a whole bunch of, building a team and stuff. So you got to start off in bite-sized chunks. And what I also noticed was a lot of entrepreneurs were really good, I don't want to say really good, but they're outsourcing projects like a website or a funnel or getting a book written or stuff like that, a one-time thing. But projects cost entrepreneurs money, right? Now, projects feel exciting because it's something new. Every time you start a project, it's something new. But if you look at real businesses, they run on processes. And a lot of those processes, by definition, are mundane, boring, and repetitive, right?
Correct.
And we entrepreneurs, we hate mundane, boring, and repetitive.
Yeah.
Right? We'd rather go to a dentist and get our teeth pulled out.
Yeah.
Because it's one time, you go in, you get the tooth taken out, and it's done, right?
Right.
But a process is every single day. And so what happens? So you have these processes that drive the results. Entrepreneurs don't like doing processes, so they don't really know how to run these processes, and thus they're not very good at delegating processes. And so then what they tend to do is then move on to another shiny dangly object, right?
Yeah.
Right. And because.
Wow, brother, that what you're saying is so powerful.
Right. So if people take nothing away from this conversation, but take this away, that projects cost you money and processes make you money.
Make you money.
But we entrepreneurs don't like processes, right? Because it means doing the same thing every single day.
Can I put that line on my website?
Absolutely. That's
awesome, man.
And so we have to learn, if we're not going to be the ones driving the process, we have to be the ones managing the process.
Okay.
Right? What's the process? It's simple. How did McDonald's build a billion-dollar empire, right? They just learned how to teach a pretty unskilled person how to put a bun, a patty, cheese, lettuce, mayo, tomato, close the bun, put it in a box, and give it to a customer.
Yeah.
And by doing that a billion trillion times, they built a business.
Scale.
Right? So what can we learn from that? Well, what are the processes, the hidden processes that either you are doing and don't like doing, that you are doing but not doing well, or simply not doing at all, right? This is the stuff that when you dial this in as an entrepreneur and you give it to somebody else to do for you, is what's going to start giving you, when you talk about that freedom, right? That freedom is coming from somebody doing things in your business, for your business, that generate a result. That gives you the freedom to grow a business, not simply work in the business. So say, you become the beekeeper, not the busy bee.
Okay.
Right?
So I was saying you're busy bee, but you're the bee.
It's the beekeeper.
Keeper.
That's the secret.
That's the
Right?
secret. Okay.
Entrepreneurs are the busy bees today.
Yeah.
Right? They're the ones buzzing around doing all thing. No. We have to learn to be the beekeeper, right? And we wear a protective suit. The protective suit keeps us protected from the busyness in the business.
Lots of ego as well.
Right? We want to make sure we're managing our team, like you said, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're
micro managers.
Yeah. And then if we do this correctly, we the beekeepers get to come and collect the honey, the sweetness, right?
Now we're talking beeswax,
now
gentlemen.
we're doing bees. So that's what we want. We want to basically have the busy bees help us create the honey.
Okay. That's cool. You mentioned about fascination with ancient symbology. How does it connect to your methodology?
So the way the whole bee thing came around was I study symbology, and the very first time this occurred to me was in 2009. As I was mentioning, we're going through a hard time, and I remember my mother-in-law suggesting we do this like ancient Hindu like ritual to bring us good luck, right? Now I'm not very religious per se, right?
Right.
But you know, when you're going through a hard time, you pretty much like say, okay. And so
we have a saying in Polish. I'll tell you that in Polish. Jak trwoga, to do Boga. That means that whenever troubled, reach out to God.
right. So I was like, okay, you know what? There's obviously things about this world that I'm not getting right now. So we're doing this ceremony, and in Hinduism there is a deity or a god, a figure called Ganesh. It's the elephant god.
Ganesh.
Right? You can Google it. You'll see the image of Ganesh. It's an elephant head on a human body, right? Now there's a lot kind of story of how this god came to be, but everything in Hinduism is actually, people think Hinduism is a religion. It is a religion today in that sense, but it actually is more of a science. It's more of a science, and the way principles were taught was through symbology. So Ganesh, if you look at Ganesh's body, he has a large head on the human body, right? He has 4 hands, and Hindus pray to Ganesh when they're going through a challenge, right? They say, oh, please Ganesh, please fix my problem, right?
Yeah.
And we were doing this ritual in San Diego, praying to this Ganesh, saying, please Ganesh, help us with this problem. When I was looking at Ganesh, I was like, hang on a second. My logical mind is telling me there is no elephant god sitting in some Himalayan mountaintop. So why did someone go through all the trouble of making it look like that, right? There has to be a logical reason. So I started Googling and stuff. What I found out was the secrets of transformation were hidden in the symbology of this figure. So Ganesh is an elephant, which means that if you have an obstacle in your life, Ganesh represents pushing through the obstacle, right? The elephant, because the elephant can move through a jungle like almost at ease. It doesn't allow the denseness of the jungle to stop its flow, right? Part 1. Ganesh also has a tusk, which means that you've got to work on your core strength. It has a large head, which means you've got to develop your mental intellect and wisdom, which means that the same mind that created the problem can't solve the problem, right? Which means that you have to learn new information to solve a problem that you're having.
Like Einstein said, that the
right?
problem, he said something that you cannot solve a problem from the same level that the problem was created. You gotta go to a different perspective, change the perspective, or change the level.
Yeah. Ganesh also has small forward-focused eyes. So his eyes are very focused, which means you focus forward, not backwards. Small mouth means you talk less. Big ears is you listen more, right? He has a broken tusk, which means nothing in life will be perfect, so get over it. Don't focus on imperfection, right? Ganesh has a large belly, which means that you have to have the ability to digest both the good and bad in life. In the top right hand, he has an axe, which is if your happiness is attached to something material, right, it's temporary. Which means that the moment that material thing is gone, your happiness goes with it. Do not attach your happiness to the material stuff, right? In the in the upper left hand, he has what looks like a whip, which symbolizes we have to rein in your emotions. If you allow your emotions to run away, like an elephant, the way the elephant is controlled is by basically tapping on the lobes. The elephant hander will tap on the lobes, meaning that they control this big beast. Our emotions are the beast, right? Through gentle, subtle taps, which means that we have to learn how to manage our emotions, right? If we let them run away, they'll cause havoc.
Emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, right? Ganesh sits on a throne, which means that you have the obligation to master this realm. Whatever we believe in next, we're not there right now. We're in this realm. This is the material realm, right? So we have to learn to master this realm, which is why he wears a crown, right? So even though we're not attached to it, we have to learn to master it. He sits with one leg up, one leg down, which is that we are spiritual beings, which is the leg up, anchored in a physical reality, right? That even though we are actually, there's a higher self to us, there's a higher purpose to us, right? Right now we are physical. Right now we're here, right?
Yeah.
At the very base of the statue is a small rat, and the rat symbolizes the little things in life that can go wrong, right? So if a focus is down on the like, oh, my phone's not working, my Wi-Fi is not working, right? You'll never have peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
So they were able to encapsulate all that wisdom in one image, right? So you want to learn how to go through a challenge in life. You look at Ganesh, you develop your intellect and wisdom, you develop core strength, you don't get attached to the problem, you don't get attached to material things that bring you happiness, you manage your emotions, and that's how you move through a problem. So you shouldn't be just praying to Ganesh.
Mm-hmm.
You should become the Ganesh. You should start doing what Ganesh symbolizes.
Mastering the
right?
elements.
That's what got me fascinated. And then when I went to India, I actually developed an app where I decoded the wisdom along with a team of dozens of Hindu gods. Every Hindu god was designed, right, for a specific symbolic reason.
And that's what you use at your seminars when you teach.
I teach that, yeah.
When you give, tell us a little bit about the speaking and the methodology that you use, because that's the spiritual part. Which do you connect it like together
Absolutely.
with the entrepreneurial? Like,
Absolutely. So I teach that particular component for two reasons. One, because people find it fascinating,
Mhm.
but two, to bridge the religious gaps that still exist between human beings, right?
Okay.
Which is when we don't understand other people's religions, we create a barrier in the world. And right now, it's not a time to be building barriers and thinking that my religion is better than this religion. It's we have preferences. That's all it is preferences, right? If someone wants to practice in one way, that's their freedom to practice in that way.
Yeah.
As long as people do not impose their beliefs on you, right? That to me is very important. That if I choose to believe in this, you choose to believe in that, we can still sit down as friends and have dinner, right?
Correct.
But the moment I say you're wrong, we're creating division. We're creating and then do any of us really know? You know?
No, we're just bullshitting.
Somebody made this up.
There's a saying that never believe in your own bullshit.
Yeah, so somebody had this idea. It was a good idea. It brings peace to a lot of people, but ultimately, none of us truly know.
Yeah.
If you're watching this video, we don't know.
Yeah,
Let's just face it.
we don't know. That's why I like the like for example, money. Money doesn't have any color. I mean, other than the notes, it can be green or whatever. It doesn't have any color. It's like you can create, you can solve problems. If you can solve problems, if you can become effective, if you can make stuff effective, then let's say if you help 1,000 people or 1 billion people, and they pay you $1, it doesn't matter, where you're from, whatever. It's just solving the problem. But because of all of the stigma, how would you call it otherwise? Because of all of the, stuff that we think that we're perceived. So I'll give you an example. When I moved to London, there was a lot of Polish plumbers, and then I was working at the construction site. So I had so many complexes, because whenever someone met me, they were like, "Oh, that's the Polish plumber." He's a Polish plumber. I mean, that's what I thought. They didn't tell me that, but that's what I thought. That's what I was, kind of, the inferiority concept. Is that what you kind of meant? That's why I like effectiveness and the stuff that you're preaching with the productivity.
Yeah. So that was my fascination with symbology, right? And even today, something as simple as
you should take one of the masks that you have. Do you have them?
No.
Like the costumes and stuff?
Yeah. So when I speak, I often will speak in character, right? So even like today, we be right, because people know yellow.
By the way,
color.
I love your jacket, and I prepared a gift for you since you're here. So Symbology, since we're talking about Symbology,
there you go.
That's a gift from us to you. That's a sticker that you can stick wherever you want.
Thank you. Awesome.
And obviously you've got a beautiful bee, jacket and the watch. Do you want to show your watch as well?
Yeah. So I have a yellow.
Beautiful.
So it took me, I fell in love with the bee concept. I started wearing yellow, and now my peers, my people, they know, when they see yellow, even if it's not me, they think of me, in terms of branding,
Yeah.
thinking of productivity. And yellow, ironically, if you Google the color yellow, it actually one of the
Means hope.
is hope, but also means productivity.
Wow.
Being productive. I didn't know that. It's
I always liked
it's
yellow.
total coincidence, right? And it's an unusual color. It's not one of the colors that most people tend to see a lot
Shiny
of.
means light.
Yeah. Plus, it's
means
it's
life.
color of happiness too. It's like so that's how I started using Symbology. So because of that Ganesh experience, when I kind of started looking at bees from a business perspective, I said, I'm going to just really embrace this whole bee theme, and I'm going to kind of make it my thing. I use a lot of the bee concepts in teaching. One of my programs is the Beeline program, which is
Beeline.
the
I
Beeline
like that.
which is basically a straight line. Why? Because entrepreneurs don't work in straight lines. We like to do this, right? One thing, the next thing, one thing. So Beeline is a theoretical concept, which is what's the fastest path between here and there. It's a straight line, right? And so that
Beeline.
program is about accountability, where in the base of accountability, the fundamentals of getting things done is knowing what to get done in the first place, right? Which is what I call priority planning.
You said that the entrepreneurs, they don't know what they don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason that they're not productive, and one of the reasons they're not productive, is because they don't know what to work on. They don't know what to focus on, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of hacks. There's lots of productivity hacks. Use a Google Calendar. Use this app. Use that app. Whatever. But fundamentally, if you're not working on the right thing, you might be very productive, but you might not be producing the right result, right? So, as I said, that makes you a busy bee. You're busy
So
doing
then
things.
Once you know what to do, then you need to prioritize.
You need to prioritize. And so once you got a clear, like what we do is I teach entrepreneurs to do monthly, weekly, and daily planning, right? And if you go to beelineplanner.com, they can download this free one page. I basically figured out how to get, instead of using a whole big book to planning and entrepreneurs.
So we'll put that as a link.
Perfect, great. And so that methodology I developed over 5 years of how to get it so simple that first you just got to know what your goal is for the month. Next, I'm going to limit you to 3 open projects, not 10 different things, just 3 projects, and even one is better than 3. Like if you can focus on just one thing this next 30 days, just do that. Now you've got your project, and now we've got the processes. So the projects are, remember, projects cost you money.
Cost you money.
Processes make you money, right?
Make you money.
So what are the processes that might generate a result? So today, this is a project, right? We're making this podcast, this video. It's a project. If all you did was make this video and you don't publish it in the right way, you don't tag it and everything else, you don't post it in the right places, what's the point? It just costs you money, it costs us time, right?
Yeah.
So it's the process that happens afterwards that makes sure that this asset, which today is a liability, right? Today, right now, this is a liability. It's costing you time, effort, and money, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to turn this liability into an asset by using a process to make sure it gets pushed out into distribution, right? Because someone might see it, they may want to work with you. Someone may see it, they may want to work with me. That's the process.
You
that
guys gotta
result.
work with him. That's why you're here,
right? So anyway, so that's basically what we're talking about, right? Which is, so really 3 things: a goal for the month, the projects that you have to get done to make sure that your process works, and the processes that you're going to run. It could be a Facebook Live, it could be LinkedIn, it could be networking, whatever that process is. Obviously, somebody in your industry, or somebody, if you're listening to this, there's somebody who's doing what you do and they're doing it better. So go emulate them and just get better at doing.
That's how I started that. I sent a message to one of the guys who was doing very similar thing, and he rejected me. I mean, rejected. I don't even look at rejection as rejection. It's kind of like, not now. And I'm like, okay, if not now, then when? So I just created my thing. I just emulated.
Yeah. So it's, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? We just got to get really good at what I call deep work, which is, figure out what works in your industry, look at some of your competitors, figure out what they're doing, and then just go deep into that. And that's a great starting point in terms of shifting the needle, as I call it.
Right. What also caught my eye was your educational program designed specifically for parents and their children. Kids Entrepreneur and Money program, right?
Yeah.
Why did you create it?
Well, first of all, I didn't create it. Just a small correction. What happened was one of my clients had this program that they created, and it really caught my attention because it resonated with me as a parent who homeschooled. So I homeschooled both my kids.
Wow.
My oldest Shivani, who's actually in Warsaw right now.
Homeschooled means that they don't go to a public school.
Correct. Right. So in America, it's a fairly common concept. Not so much in Europe.
Not so much.
And even less in India, where we were. So when we left the US, we didn't want to go back to England or whatever. So we started teaching the kids from home. But it wasn't even from home. It was like from hotels, from airplanes, from resorts. In the slums. So we used the world as their school.
As the environment.
Right?
That's the best school.
And so my oldest daughter, Shivani in Warsaw, she never went to school. In fact, she she dropped out of school at age 10. She was homeschooled for 5 years. And then when she had a choice to go back into school, she chose not to. She chose an alternative education path. We took a chance as a family, right? Like she doesn't have a high school diploma, doesn't have all the normal things that we.
Does it bother her because some institutions require that shit?
You're right, and some do. But I think we're living in a time that more and more CEOs are emerging where they recognize that paper qualifications doesn't make somebody the best choice, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're now entering a time when somebody's going to be more open to somebody who says, hey, you didn't go to school. I said, yeah, but look at my experience, right? And she was 15 when she started traveling by herself around the world. She was training entrepreneurs at age 15.
Wow.
Right? And so
there are a super couple with Bogdan. I looked them up before.
Yeah, so she's been speaking since age 8 when she was first emceed an event of 3,500 people at age 8. She recorded her first album as a homeschool project, which was 14. So there are different ways to gain education today, other than the traditional school system, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody.
I love that what
right?
you just said.
But there are, So and one of the things that parents fear is like, well, what if my kid doesn't go to school? What if they get left behind? It's like, that's the parents' role to ensure that we provide our kids with the right stimulation, the right environment to still learn. But you don't have to learn always through a school methodology. And
Absolutely.
even if you want to keep your kids in school, that's fine. It's make sure the kids are still getting enrichment from outside programs, right?
Yeah.
So what
I call them side projects.
Side projects. So why this company? Well, first of all, I was already consulting for this company, but I remember growing up, I didn't get financial education. My dad was a banker, but I didn't get financial education, and I made a lot of mistakes financially. That had I just had some even basic knowledge, right, that I would have been probably far wealthier than I am today. So I just had a kind of a passion that we want to start educating kids to be financially smart, but also entrepreneurial smart, right? I'm not saying that everybody has to be an entrepreneur, but there's a way of thinking.
But the skill,
right?
You have a household budget.
Yeah.
You need to have those skills whether you're an entrepreneur or not.
Yeah.
Right? You need to know about your taxes. You need to know about kind of a little bit about legal stuff, because as an entrepreneur you need to know the legal stuff as well, and you need to be on top of that. Whether you're kind of scaling as an entrepreneur, looking for opportunities, or you're just kind of like your own entity.
Right. So that became a kind of a passion. It was more than a passion project. I'm the COO of that company right now, and it's almost like a give back. It's like, what, as entrepreneurs, we often make a lot of, I won't say mistakes. We invest very heavily in life learning, and often we can save ourselves time, effort, and money by learning the basics first. And money management, our relationship to money, is such a key part of entrepreneurship.
Do you teach that as well in that program?
In that program, yeah, it's teaching kids to become comfortable with money. It's teaching kids how to manage money. Teaching kids how to make money, right? Teaching kids how to have a healthy relationship with money.
So parents could sign up for that program.
Yeah.
And is there like some sort of sample that they could have, or is it?
Yeah, they get a free trial. I think it's like a $1 trial.
Okay.
They can test it out. If they like the content, they can sign up for the monthly or the annual, one-time annual.
Right.
But it's a phenomenal program. It's done at 2 levels. We use animation for the younger kids, and then Shivani actually does the content for the teenagers. So I just really when I started watching it, I was like, holy crap! There's things in this program that even I, as an adult, could learn from.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, so we'll link that up as well. Now, last thing before we finish, I need to ask you about the service and also the product with the virtual assistant. So if I'm an entrepreneur, if I'm not an entrepreneur, I could benefit from that. Can you briefly tell us about that?
So very, very briefly, so what we focus on, as I mentioned, is process-based outsourcing, right? Even though there's a lot of work in the project world, what we focus on is processes. And what I want to encourage entrepreneurs to do is, what are the processes that if you get it off your plate and give it to somebody, even if it's a half an hour process, that's why we call it a micro process, that maybe it might take a virtual assistant 30 minutes per day, right?
Right.
But if that thing was being done every single day for a year, what impact could it have on your entire business?
And you're not going to make mistakes. You don't need to think.
Yeah, it's a process.
One item less from all
exactly
from all
right?
your list.
Yeah, so that's why we call it process-based outsourcing. And if they go to the website theprocesshive.com, they'll see a video from there of me explaining how it works, why we focus on this, how to even develop a process. If they don't want to develop a process, we have templates we can give them, so that they can see all that on the website.
Right. And anything about some sort of if I wanted to start, any sort of pricing points?
So we have three starting setup packages. So one is $197, and that is if this is US dollars, and that is if you have a process already that works, is documented, and you just want help finding the right virtual assistant, you can. That's the $197.
All right.
At $297, we'll do a consulting call, and one of my senior VAs, they will help you identify which process, 1 or 2 processes to start with, and they'll give you the template, and you can edit the template and then give it back to us, and we'll find the VA. And at $397, the same thing, but in this case, we'll take the template, we'll consult with you, we'll write the template, we'll update the template, make sure that it works for you and the virtual assistant, and we start there. That's the setup part, right? That's the most important part. If we get this part right, everything else becomes super easy, right? The next part is the virtual assistant. Unlike other outsourcing companies, we don't charge a margin. What we do is we basically help find the virtual assistant. In most cases, they'll do things for about $5 per hour. And the client is actually going to pay the virtual assistant directly. We don't take a cut from that. What they pay us is a $49 per month support fee. In that support fee, we are basically there to support both the client and the virtual assistant to make sure this relationship stays smooth. If the virtual assistant has to quit or leave or gets sick or whatever, we basically replace that virtual assistant for free.
Absolutely. All right, thank you very much. So if you guys are struggling with all the things, and for sure you are, I don't know a person, by the way, I'm gonna be recommending you to my to one of my business partners, because he was looking for kind of virtual assistant, and so we'll talk about it afterwards. But if you guys are interested, then we'll link that up under the podcast, or the website is
theprocesshive.com.
theprocesshive.com, and also the free special the planner. So the planner is beelineplanner.
Yep.
.com. Okay, and your website.
And if people just want to learn more about me and what I do, they go to beejel.com, or they go to Beejel VIP.
Beejel, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
The yellow VIP, it was an amazing experience. I've learned a lot. And now, before we finish, I would like to thank you everybody for your time, for watching. I hope it was valuable. Well, I don't hope, I know it was valuable. And please subscribe. If you're looking for next podcast that we'll be recording, we'll be inviting special guests that will be delivering lots of content, lots of value as well. Or leave us a comment for the number one podcast name, this is like the last episode where we're kind of unnamed. We'll be named from the next one, I promise. And if you have any sort of comments regarding the work that Beejel does, then please comment below. And thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed all the beautiful mountains that we've just seen. Beejel, again, all the best, brother.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Until next time.
Until next time.